This is Do Your Part with Brian Gallo.
Welcome back, everybody. Do Your Part is the podcast. As you already know, I am your host, Brian Gallo. You really know the objective with our podcast. We're trying to come up with some solutions, tangible actions and things that people can do and take to be able to just really help tackle racism and prejudice. What do you think about that, buddy?
Yeah, man, I think that's definitely a topic that needs to be discussed. And actually, more importantly, we need to find a solution that works for our society, because right now it's just a lot of tension and just the temperature right now it's very divisive. So.
Yeah. And a lot of people are asking men of color questions. But before we get into the conversation, I'm backing into this.
Yes.
Introduce yourself a little bit. I've known you for quite some time here in the Coachella Valley. Your name just rose really quickly. It was almost overnight. You've been on the scene.
Yes.
And what I love about you is you're philanthropic. You believe in giving back. So tell folks a bit about you.
Hey, how you guys doing out there? My name is Tysen Knight. I am an actual street artist. My transition to being a I'll say international, kind of national artist. I reside in Palm Springs, California. I'm originally from New Jersey, so I'm an East Coast, West Coast artist now. And, I just like giving back to my community, and I just have a special place in my heart for the Coachella Valley, So that's me, street artist, public artist, and philanthropy work. Yes.
And
that word.
Well, that's perfect, because that's where I want to take the beginning of this conversation is giving back, volunteering, youth. All of these things are very, very important to you. Mm-hmm. Like, why don't people do that? And where did you learn this? Why is it so important to you?
When I was younger, I always knew I was creative and I was an artist, but I didn't know how my art would impact people per se. Mm-hmm. And when I actually got here to Coachella Valley, I started out as a barber. I was cutting hair in a barbershop. And a lot of young men of color would come in and have these issues, and I would help them with their issues. So that was kind of the start of me in my road to being a mentor. Mm-hmm. And then I was able to get in contact with the Palm Springs Unified School District, and I was able to take my art and how I was talking to these young men at the barbershop and put those two things together, and that's why I started my art mentorship program. Mm-hmm. So I was blessed enough to understand the purpose of my art. Mm-hmm. Once I understood the purpose of my art, it just took it to another level, because I understood that me having these talents was to be in servitude to others and to help others. So that really is the most important part of my whole career. Mm-hmm. Like, I look at the art as secondary. What's first to me is helping people and encouraging people and inspiring people. So I was blessed to be able to combine both of those, and that's where I gained the power of who I am, self-belief in myself, and the ability to change people's lives for the better. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really interesting, because I know as youth, we are always encouraged to make sure that we have a plan, we have things mapped out. What's your 5-year plan? What do you want to be when you grow up? All of those things. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing is that this just it all kind of morphed into its own, right? Like, you really realized through your philanthropy and through mentorship that was the missing element to why you are an artist. Mm-hmm. But you didn't know that beforehand until you did.
No. Wow. So I it's very important for me to help young people of color, and if just anybody in general, to find your knowledge of self. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where a lot of your self-value and what you can contribute to society comes about. Mm-hmm. And
we don't learn that in school.
You don't learn that in school. So now that I'm able to help people with that, I think that's very important, especially nowadays, especially with people of color, especially young men of color, because you have to understand your value to the society. And once you understand the value, then you'll look at your other brother as someone that's not an enemy, but someone that's that you can help and build something with.
And that's the first thing you want to do is how can we find a common bond?
Yes.
I will say your definition of freedom, obviously there's the, Webster's definition, but I think we all have different definitions of what freedom means to us. And what you're describing is that's real freedom.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, once you realize what your value is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you can say, okay, here's how I can apply that to the world and leave a mark. That's real freedom.
That's real freedom.
Yeah. I've been going through that. I always encourage my friends, especially my male friends, because we're a little more gruff. You have to do the work. whatever that looks like. But you need to be working introspectively on yourself to some degree at all point in times with the objective to be what we're talking about.
Yes.
Find out what your value is.
Absolutely.
You know? I'm glad we opened with that because here, no, for real, because it's weird. Like here in the Coachella Valley, I work with a lot of people. I'm not going to call out names, but a lot of people have zero interest in volunteering, zero interest in giving back. And it blows my mind.
You're right.
Yeah. I had a conversation with my friend and I was like, be a big brother. He's like, you know, volunteering isn't calling to me right now. When it calls to me, I'll know. And right now I'm just doing me at 43 years old. I mean, you've always been doing you.
Yeah. So, but what people don't realize is like, when you're put in a blessed situation in your life, that's when your servitude has to be even at a higher level. Because not only are you helping someone find who their value, you also keep instilling the value in yourself. And that energy, that surge of energy, it's incredible. But we live in a society where, you know, everybody's, I'm just going to get mine. I'm just going to get mine.
Right.
I'm not worried about the next person.
Greedy, hungry.
So really what you're doing is you're actually feeding the monster of divisiveness. Now, if you take it into a racial tone, that just adds on to it. So it's small things that turn into big things, where if everybody understands their value, then we can have conversation with each other and we can respectfully disagree. But when you have this mentality, it's all about me all the time. You have this stand, you draw a line in the sand. So even if I had a difference of opinion from you, we both wouldn't have gained understanding of each other to respect each other enough to say, okay, brother, tell me why you feel that way. Okay, you know what, I understand you a little bit better now. Because everybody's like, back up, this all me, back up, everybody else back up.
Right.
So I think the highest level spiritually you can have is servitude. That's what we're here for.
You know, I like what you said a moment ago about not even really including the blanket of racism on top of that, because people look at race relation issues, especially now, and it's very black and white. Yeah. But there's so much beneath.
So many levels.
So many levels. A lot of racism to me, like I just had an issue, as you may know, last Friday, right? Some dude called me a fucking nigger when I was driving.
Oh, wow,
right?
okay.
And everybody's like, you know, let's hang him and let's get him and, you know, hunt him. And it's like, you know what? That's his shit. Those are your anger issues, and you, as my advice to him, if we were having a civil conversation, would be, yo, like, take steps back in your life to figure out what are you so angry about, right? How do I get you from being so filled with hate and rage to like love, right? Yeah. Because when he brought up at me, at first I was ready to talk shit, and I did. And
I understand. That might be the first reaction.
It was, but then I stopped and I said, "It's all peace, it's all love, brother. It's all peace, it's all love," and that made him even more mad. So it's important that we unpack that a little bit right there, because it is not, pun intended, a black and white issue. It's not black and white. There's so much that is underneath.
There's so many different layers that we're not addressing. So I'm gonna go on the N word, right? So I've been called a nigger before too, right? So, and when this person called me this, it didn't affect me in a way that I wanted to get into an altercation with this person. I actually felt sorry for this person.
Empathy, right?
So I had empathy for this person, right? So what I realized was that if I was to get upset and attack this person, I'm empowering this person by their words, because you got to remember, there's no really bad words. There's just words used badly. So and the word
behind it.
Yes, and most people don't know that the word nigger came from the Latin word negra, negro, which means black. So over time, it's morphed into this thing that's negative against African Americans.
But it didn't start that way.
It didn't start that way. So a lot of these words are just morphed into these things. So I look at it as like, if someone calls me a bad name or calls me the N-word, if I don't empower that word or empower that person, it has no effect on me.
This is why I have you here. You know what I mean? It's because I think that we generalize, so people always seem to think that they know what that word does to us. And when we see, as far as media is concerned, it's a trigger word.
It is a trigger word.
They light up.
You're right.
And I remember, right, because it takes work. I remember when I had let somebody get the best of me by calling me a name. I don't think it was nigger. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember me losing it.
Yes.
And I had this conversation last night with my friend. And I learned in that moment, never again. No. Because I don't know you, bro. Like, I'm not going to give you that energy.
And you empowered them.
I did. And not only did I empower him, I take it with me.
Yes.
Right? So the disappointment that I had, the self-reflection, the journey I had to walk through just in that moment of me reacting to somebody who I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
Yes.
So it helped me, and I was trying to explain that to a lot of my friends this past weekend. It's like, you don't get it, you guys. First of all, I work in media. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I put a lot of work into who I am.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to jeopardize everything I've done, all my work to get to be out there caught on YouTube fist fighting a world star with some dude who called me a nigger that I don't know.
And because he's hurting and he has other issues going on. So why sit here and destroy your whole livelihood, everything you work for?
Jeopardize that.
You can't. I wouldn't invest that much power in anybody.
Now listen, to listeners who I get it. It's like, fuck that. We need to light these fools up on time.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get the concept and the idea behind that. Yes. Because this is hard. It's hard for us, and in each moment it's isolated incidents.
Yes.
But if you cannot give people your power, if it's nigger, if it's faggot, if it's you're a bum, if whatever, if you don't give people your power, that's the ticket.
You're right. Now, if your life was in danger or something like that, that's a whole different story, because life, preservation comes into effect.
Fight or flight, right?
Yeah, fight or flight. But words, I mean, we if we can condition ourselves to not give the words power, those people go away.
That's his shit. That ain't mine.
You're in media, right?
Yeah.
You're in media, so you understand. Like, if a say like a story is going to break on a certain celebrity, right? That this celebrity doesn't want this scandal out there. Now, I've seen where if you get ahead of the story and put it out yourself, you take a lot of power away from the media. And it's the same type of premise. If you get ahead of it, they lose the power. So if someone was to call me an N-word, if I don't even respond, what are they going to do? Keep calling me until they look like a fool?
Right. They look like a fool already.
Now, if they try to attack me, then that's a different dynamic.
We're talking about something different.
On top of that, yeah. So, yeah, but I just, that's how I kind of look at things.
I love it. And it's interesting because when we see these videos on World Star and Facebook, and it's really sad to see, but usually these people who are filled with rage end up getting the karma. It's so instant, and they end up getting hurt, and then they end up having to apologize. It's all so messy.
Yes.
I had this conversation again with my buddy last night, and he's a black dude my age, and he was called a nigger in Trader Joe's like 2 years ago, and he got in a fist fight with this white dude, beat his ass in the grocery store. And hearing him talk about it, it like broke my heart.
Yes.
Because I want to see when I think of him, I think of love.
Yeah.
And envisioning that was like, it was hard. And I can't now unsee that, right?
Yeah.
But that's what he had to do in that moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm not going to, castigate anybody that, put anybody down that has to react the way they want to react. I'm just saying, let's look at it from a three-dimensional level of thinking, where if I walk out of here, that's more powerful than me beating you up. Because at the end of the day, that's not going to stop him from saying that word.
Right.
Because now it's going to just reinforce it even more in that person that had that racist word, because I got attacked for that. This black man beat me up. So now you give him more vitriol to say the word to someone else.
Right. You're co-signing it.
But if you was to walk in and say, okay, and walk away, that's going to sit with him.
Forever.
Yes. Yes, and then the next time he's going to call somebody a name, and then they don't respond again.
And he's the one running around like a silly hothead. Right? Just offending people. I posted this on Friday. I was advised by some people, like, you need to post it. I took a picture of his license plate.
Yeah.
And in the post, I put, hey, this dude, this was a first for me. Gotta love the local neighborhood, yada, yada, yada. But I put, if you see this dude, have a sit down with him.
Yes.
And I meant that. And everyone's like, a sit down. And I was like, no, don't light him up. Don't beat his ass. Sit him down. Yeah. So I say that because even as I tried to explain my experience to people, to share it, which I was on the fence about doing in the first place, I still was trying to come from a place of reason and love.
Yes.
I ended up deleting the post. It got shared like 250 times. There was some mistaken identity because people were looking up the license plate and it was attached to the wrong names.
Yeah.
But somebody asked me, why'd you delete it? And I said, because that's all I'm doing is keeping that moment alive.
Yeah, you're keeping that. You're putting out you're taking a negative situation and trying to turn it into a positive. But what happened was, because that surge of energy and the way it's coming, that surge of energy you put out, then people are going to take it as negative. And then, like you said, mistaken identity, someone can get killed or harmed by something you're trying to make into a positive.
Straight up. And if you guys are listening, gentlemen who are, that were not the people who were, because again, we had people had the license plate wrong. So some names, innocent names were brought up. If you're listening, I do really apologize. That again, that's part of the reason I didn't want to load it up in the first place.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah, I get it.
All right. So this is a lot about me, but I want to get back to you.
Let's do it.
Let me ask you this. When we talk about, first of all, do me this favor, racism and prejudice. Describe the two.
Well, to me, racism is not liking someone based off the color of their skin or based off of cultural differences and based off trying to preserve your bloodline, okay? Because racism is actually a race. So you're a certain race of person and you want to keep your people in some type of sort of power in your own mind, right? So that's what I think racism is. So if I had to break it down, it would be not like somebody for the color of their skin, trying to preserve your race, and having cultural differences and not understanding other different cultures.
You don't mind this, do you?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, prejudice is, I think prejudice can go a lot of different ways. I think prejudice can go from sexual orientation, gender. Also, you throw color of your skin in there. So I think those are, they're one and the same, but there's little nuances in there that's a little bit different when you're talking about those two.
Do you think people know the difference between the two?
No.
Right. Right.
No.
Why?
Because you know what, man? I think we live in a society where people are always looking for, no knock to the media, they're always looking for the media to feed them information. I think sometimes you have to take in the information, take in the information you think you like, take in information I think that's biased toward the information you like, and then put the two together and figure out a common goal, a common bond that brings those two together so you can come up with some type of intelligent conclusion.
A mutual friend of ours, Trenna, I know that she listens to Fox News, and I mean, she'll do both sides to come up with her own conclusion. Yeah. Which is smart.
Yeah.
It's a way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, educate yourself.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask that is for the obvious reason, right? We're in a space, we're in a position where people are not educated. They don't know backstory. They don't know definitions. They don't know just a lot of the details that come with racism.
Yes.
So
and that causes a lot of confusion.
It does. Do you have any prejudice towards any given group?
No.
Are you sure about that?
I'm sure. I
challenge you on that.
Ask me.
Well, you know,
ask me.
Okay, I will. So when we first started this podcast, one of the producers of the show, one of her favorite elements to what we were going to introduce was this prejudice and bias test. Right?
Okay.
So essentially, Harvard put out a website. It has 14 different categories from gay, black, Middle Eastern, women, disabilities. And so the objective with that is because the reality is that everybody has a little bit of prejudice in that.
Well, because it's learned behavior. So if I was to piggyback over what you're saying, growing up, my parents always instilled like African American culture in me to give me some type of
wow, we need to talk about that. Go on.
Some value to myself. So if I was able to get out in the world, I didn't feel inferior to anybody. But hanging out with my friends, of course, especially back in like the 90s and coming to early 2000s, you kind of pick up the same mannerism as the people you hang with. So those are a lot of learned behaviors, like about women and gays and white people, and all this type of things you learn, when you're a child, because you're running with other people that have that's undereducated on these topics.
Right. So
as you get older and you experience life and you're more open-minded, then you realize that, oh man, that wasn't cool how I used to think about certain things. And then you open up your mind and then you start to make friends of all different types of people.
So what I'm hearing is that you were just like the rest of us, prejudiced growing up.
Yeah.
And then you, by just being you, were able to unravel those.
Because you learn as you get older and you evolve, you learn.
Why do you think it's not that easy for a lot of people? Because I feel like kids, as we all know as kids, right? You don't see color as kids. It's learned. We know
it's learned, yeah.
It's taught. So
so I think some people are still trying to fit into whatever box that they, created for themselves.
It's very hard created for them.
And I think it's very hard because you want to run with, people want to be around people and have friends. So obviously your base of friends are going to have the same ideologies that you have, right?
Yeah.
So I think the hardest thing for most people to do is have knowledge of self. It's very hard to look yourself in the mirror and understand who you are and work on that.
You know, it's interesting. My mother she raised me to be very confident. And I can tell the exact same thing with you. I think that's why you and I, we have this kindred.
Yes.
That's part of why, you know, because we're just confident people by nature.
Yeah.
I want you to talk a little bit more about your parents teaching you about African history. I want you to talk a bit about your childhood. And did you have a diverse childhood? Did you have white friends growing up or Asian friends?
Yes, I had white friends.
So tell us a bit more about what you learned from your parents.
Well, my parents was very, they were very big on education, very big on whatever talents you have, that you cultivate them. And I remember, now that I'm older, I really, really appreciate the values they instilled in me, because I remember as a child, this is before the internet, you know, we had like encyclopedias and you had like bookshelves and things of this nature, right?
What was it? The Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah.
Right.
So my parents would, you know, they would go buy all these different, you know, books of African-American inventors. And I've learned about like Ralph Bunche and all these different African-American inventors and people that added so much to the society that they weren't teaching in school. So I don't think a lot of people are getting, unfortunately, a lot of young people are not getting that type of schooling in the home.
Yeah.
And that afforded me to have a lot of confidence. And
know your history.
Yeah, and know my history. And also my parents understanding I was an artist and I was talented, and pushing me in that direction. You know, I think that's now that I look back on it, I thought that every so-called African-American home had that type of upbringing.
Oh, no. Oh.
But as I got older, I understood. Yeah. So that's just a blessing I was able to have parents that wanted to instill confidence, self-worth in me. You know. Did
your parents ever have the sit down with you about how you need to act if you have to deal with cops?
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
I remember it, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we don't need to copy and paste that because we don't. People can do the math on what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I did see an ad, and it was talking about as being a black man, you don't have the birds and the bees conversation. You have the how do you need to be with dealing with cops. So, do you remember the first time you were called a nigger?
Yes. I remember the first time.
And was it confusing or did it make sense? How old were you? Tell us about that.
I was I think the first time I was called that I can actually remember, that stuck in my mind, I'll say maybe it was in around 94, 95.
How old are you?
I'm 44.
Oh, wow.
My birthday was yesterday.
Happy birthday. Okay, go ahead. So in the 90s, so you were in your teens.
Yeah.
When the first time you were called?
Well, the first time I could actually recall.
Okay, got it.
So I could have been called that before, but this is sometimes I remember we block things out, negative experiences out, right? So this is the first time I actually can recall being called.
So tell us about it. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
I was dating this girl at the time, and I was sitting on her porch, and a truck rolled by, and they were like, "Nigger." It kind of like threw me off a little bit
because you're stunned for a minute. And you're looking over your shoulder.
I'm looking around. Is it somebody behind me? Is
there a sign I missed?
And I was like, oh, okay. And at that moment, I'm like, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Because that's the first time I understood that, okay, there's people in the world that just don't like me for the color of my skin.
Yeah.
But it was just passing by. So it wasn't like a physical altercation or anything that was like up in my face.
Which is also kind of worse.
It is worse.
Right?
So that's the first time I can remember being called the N-word. And it stuck with me. I never used it as a crutch or anything, not to be the best version of myself. I didn't give it power, but I understood the context in which it was being said. And now that I look back at that now, just being older now and understanding life much more better, I just feel sorry for those guys, man.
Yeah. And truth is, he's probably in the passenger seat trying to impress his buddy driving.
it must be torturous in your mind to have to live in that space.
And what would your mother say? That's my thing. I always think about that.
Exactly.
Like, yo, you're doing that?
Exactly.
Is your mom co-signing that behavior?
Exactly.
This is interesting. I don't think I've ever really put thought into what I'm about to say, but just the action, right? It's like catcalling, or let's just say if you're calling somebody a spick or a gook or something, which is awful. But just the idea and what comes behind somebody just wanting to scream at a stranger in passing is even faggot. It's so weird.
It's very weird.
It's just weird. You could call me Barney Rubble or something, but just you screaming at me and not knowing me as you pass by, that whole action in its own is very fucking bizarre.
Very bizarre.
Yeah.
And very cowardly too.
Totally.
Let's not leave that out.
Right. Very cowardly. Okay. That's what that fool did. He called me a fucking nigger and then squealed around. And so I had this white dude in the car with me, right? Yeah. So I got behind the dude because I wanted to get his license plate. And before I knew it, my friend was out of the car running up on his car.
Oh, wow.
So I had to get out and tell him, bro, don't waste your time or energy. Get in the car.
I'm glad you guys, I'm glad that situation was able to be
I keep
solved civilly, because that could have been something that
it was about to be, but yeah. So, all right. So we talked a bit about your parents. We talked a bit about your child life. It sounds like you had a pretty good upbringing.
Yeah.
Did you ever? I asked my buddy Kenneth this question. Did you ever have? I keep calling it the call to the streets, which is probably a corny way of asking. But do you remember getting a call to the streets? A time in your life where you could have taken a different direction?
Yeah. I mean, I did take a different direction. Because like I said, I mean, once you get outside that protection of your parents and things they instill in you, and you get into hanging out with your friends, like I said, a lot of those different negative energies get on you. So now you start to be and act like something you weren't taught to be. And yeah, of course, I got caught up in some situations in my life, and I was able to turn my life around. And but the most important ingredient in that whole situation was that those lessons and the things that my parents instilled in me never left me. I left.
You were able to lean on them a little bit.
Yes, and I was able to get back on track because of what my parents instilled in me as a child coming up. So I was able to, bump my head a few times. I mean, because really, sometimes, well, not sometimes, as an African American male growing up in the society, you're gonna be, poked and prodded, and you're gonna have these different energies pulling at you. So it's very hard to stay focused. So it's really important that you have people in your life that can instill positivity in you, and more importantly, self-value.
And I like it. And then you roll that over to other people.
Yes.
And that's the name of the game.
That's the name of the game.
I love it. You see I'm distracted, but it's for good reason.
No, that's
so
fine.
You and I sat down, we talked a little bit. I asked you if you had seen this video, and you said no, you were not aware of it.
Let me check it out.
So we're gonna play this for you right now. Everybody at home, you'll be able to obviously listen. So today is July 1st, 2020. 4th of July is this weekend. We know we have a lot of racial tensions, to put it mildly. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure some people know we kind of have a black network, and a lot of things are shared.
Yeah.
So this was sent to me last night, and I've since shared it, and it's pretty sobering and pretty scary. So I want us to listen to it together. You folks listen to it at home, and then I want you and I to talk about it
Absolutely.
a little bit. All right, here we go.
Let's do it.
Alert as follows, comrades. This is an early alert of supposed activity this weekend on the 4th of July that would cause harm to our people on a very large scale. The Huey P. Newton Gun Club has received intel from two credible sources that multiple white nationalist groups / militias are planning a nationwide attack on all of our people over the 4th of July weekend. The sources could not confirm the motives of the nationalists, but they might be tied to the events that have recently happened with the taking down of Confederate symbols across the United States and the retaliation against police brutality across the United States as well. We, as a preparedness group, should take this threat very seriously for two reasons. One, for the events that have sparked the epicenter in Minnesota with the murder of George Floyd, and the sudden spike of Klan recruitment in the southern states the past 3 months. Please, do not take this threat lightly. Okay? over the past couple of months, there has definitely been a spike in recruitment in this area. It is my job to pay attention to these things, and I have. There's also been an uptick in rhetoric online, threats from these different militia groups. And again, this is not a training exercise. This is real. The threat is real this weekend. Take precautions. When you're out and about with your families, you should avoid large crowds of people, which shouldn't be hard because we're still on coronavirus protocol. So staying away from large crowds should be easy. Most of the fireworks events and so forth, I believe, have been canceled. If not, have been canceled.
All right, I'm going to pause that. It's got about another 2 minutes, but
Wow.
But you get it.
Wow.
Right? Wow. So I'm just going to give you a few seconds to kind of process that because I needed to. I had plans to go to take a road trip this weekend and go visit my buddy up in the Bay Area and get some work done. And I shared this with him, and then he hit me back and was like, you might want to rethink making that road trip. And he has since canceled his plans to visit with his girlfriend over the weekend to be outdoors. So what do you think? And how does it make you feel?
You know, being that we're in 2020 and we're going through this much divisiveness and just the temperature of our society is just on a level I've never seen before.
Or felt, right?
Or felt in my lifetime. I think it's, wow. I think it's important that, you know, African Americans and people that support African Americans, we come together stronger than ever at this point and take a lot of these threats very seriously. And more importantly, African American males, we have to learn to lean on each other and trust each other more. I think it's time now for us to put our egos to the side and deal with each other with love and understanding so we can combat this type of behavior. Because the longer we disagree with each other and stay apart, it's easier for the enemy to come in and attack us from all sides. So I think that African American men, men of color, women of color, and the people that support us, we need to have a high level understanding for each other and a high level support for each other right now. And I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to put my ego aside and help out any way I can. I think it's more important than ever at this point. That's what I get from that. And I'm going to go see my family this 4th of July weekend. So I'm going to be vigilant. I'm going to make sure they stay inside and we just, you know, spend time as a family and have these important conversations. And also, importantly enough, find solutions to combat this.
Which we're going to talk about towards the end of this podcast. So hearing that, you said you're going to go see your family. You guys are hang indoors. Hearing this, did that change your idea of what you're going to do this weekend already? Are you already thinking of how? Does it scare you?
Well, here's it. It definitely. I don't. You know. I don't. As one of the men in my family, I cannot be discouraged by fear and live in fear because I got nieces, nephews, people looking up to me. So I have to keep myself level-headed. But I am going to be aware. And I'm going to make decisions, me and my father, and we're going to make decisions, and my brother as well. We're going to make decisions that are in the best interest of everybody in my family. If they want to go somewhere, we'll go, but we'll make sure we're vigilant and we keep our head on a swivel and making sure things are.
Which way you do already?
Coach, yeah.
Which we've
so,
been
yeah,
doing
that's,
our life.
But, I'm not going to let a group paralyze me with fear.
You know we have a lot of white supremacists in California.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know that.
Yeah, I knew that. Absolutely.
So I like that you talk. I love this. I love talking with you. I do because I think that a lot of our ideas and kind of just life adages, they all kind of they align up.
Yeah.
And I think that fear, everything comes from fear.
Yes.
You know, and I think if people can understand what fear is and learn about it and how it affects them, that there could be a lot of healing done. So none of this makes you want to get a gun. I'm
already a gun owner.
Oh, damn. Really?
Yeah, my brother, he was in the, my brother was in the, he was in the Navy. My sister husband's in the Navy.
Do you have that gun on you right now?
No, I won't have it. No.
That was a silly question, but whatever. I'm allowed to ask, please. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
No, absolutely. No, that's not on me, but I encourage all people of color to, if you can get a gun legally, utilize the laws and become a gun owner.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have totally thought you would have given me a different answer. Here I am thinking we're right on time, we're lined up.
No, but me, like, that's something like me, my father, my brother. My brother actually builds guns. Yeah, he can build them. So me, him, and my father.
He has a military background?
Yeah, my brother's in the Navy.
I think you just said that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he actually owns too many guns, I think, to be honest. But that's something me and my mom have a conversation with. I just say, okay. But, me, him, and my father, we actually have built guns together, and we go to the shooting range and things of that nature. So I'm definitely a gun owner.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not a gun owner. I've nenever been really a big proponent of guns. Another conversation, another podcast. But I had a sheriff on yesterday.
Yeah.
And I said, "Yo, do you think I should get a gun?" And he's like, "Well, are you prepared to take someone's life?" First question he asked me. Boom. Right?
Yeah.
Not. Yeah. Can you fire it? What are you worried about? Where would you put it? Like, first thing is, are you ready to kill somebody? And I had to think about it. And my initial answer was no. And he said, then there's your answer.
Of course you don't want to kill it. I mean,
but can you? It's one thing to want, but can you physically? Are you actually able to do it?
Not
you.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, let's walk down that road, right? So if you was a gun owner, right, and I think you should be, that's your right as an American citizen to own a gun to protect yourself. When you think of killing someone, you're thinking about just on a surface level of just bang, bang, shoot somebody, right? Yeah. Now, that dynamic changes once your life is in jeopardy, because now it's about survival. Obviously, you don't want to be in a situation like that. None of us want to be in that situation. I don't want to kill anybody ever, But what if your life is in danger? Then that becomes something different. But you would never know until you're put in that situation. Like, I see situations like sometimes, and I see people do things that I wouldn't necessarily do, but then I stop myself from judgment because, okay, what would I do in that situation? It's easy
if you were really in those circumstances.
Exactly. It's easy for me to Monday day quarterback instead of being in the game Sunday and being the person that thing is happening to.
I get it. It's true. Because guaranteed, if you're guaranteed whatever conclusion you came to not being part of the situation would not be the same conclusion if you were.
Exactly.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Again, I did not expect this response from you. Okay. Not at all. But it's something that I think that needs to continue to be talked about.
Yes.
So we talked about hate and such, and I actually want to share one more video. I'm not going to make this a habit.
No, it's okay.
My friend Julie sent this to me, and she said it made her cry. This is about 29 seconds. But I think we do live in a world, obviously, I'm just going to, where you can lean on certain videos or certain snippets of people's stories to be able to prove a point. Yeah. I think that a lot of people are obviously using that to prove the wrong points, but I love this one. This is really, really nice. And this is the America that we live in, right? We're all come from mixed, blended families.
Yes, for sure.
So this is a UFC fighter sitting, speaking at a junket, and he invites his, he's a black dude, and he invites his white father up. Okay, listen to this real quick.
All right.
Yeah, come here. Oh, it's going to bring... So we've been fighting... Right now, in this time in our country, we're doing this whole Black Lives Matter. Everyone's fighting, everyone's looting. This is my father. I was born in foster care. I didn't have a mother or a father. They gave me away. My father wasn't fit to be my father. This is my dad here, Jacob Benny. He's been there since the beginning. He's done everything. He laid his life down for me, and I lay his life down for him. I don't judge any man on the color of their skin, but the content of their character. We're here. We love. It doesn't matter what color it is. It's all about love. You can't beat hate with hate. You beat hate with love. So everyone out there, please stop fighting. Please come together. We can't beat it that way with love.
So that's interesting.
Talk about it.
But see, that goes back to what we were talking about previously in the beginning of the this interview. A lot of that hate is taught in the home when you're young. So this young man here, having his father be a white man and raise him up properly, him being in that diverse situation made him understand that all that stuff they're talking about, you don't like black people or whatever, that's not true. Because here's a man that I'm supposed to look at a certain way, raised me to be the man that I am now. So how can I buy into an ideology that doesn't make sense versus how I was raised? So a lot of that racism, a lot of that hatred is taught to kids in the home.
Yeah.
Okay? No, it's not one kid on the planet Earth that's born and comes in racist.
Right. Period.
Doesn't happen. Period. No one can tell me that. That's not true. So that leads me to believe that, and I'll stand on this, that is a taught, learned behavior.
What do you have to say to, I found, and I love that you said that because we know that, right? So the point, again, part of the message with this podcast is for those of us that had learned that behavior, how do we unlearn it? It can be done.
Yes.
You can unlearn things. That's a beauty. That's called evolving, right? So I guess, there's so much to unpack in just that alone. But one thing that stuck with me with this guy's interview, him pulling his father aside, was the fact that he really emphasized the only way to combat and beat fear and hate is with love.
Yes.
I mean, it's like looking at it like a recipe, right? Or it's like a chemistry, something like that, right? So what do you have to say to that? I mean, do you think that people get that concept? That on
a grand scale?
Yeah.
No, that's why we're in the devices.
Like what we're talking about. If somebody calls us the N-word, do we hate them or do we what do you like? How?
Well, I don't hate or love them. I just have empathy for them.
But that would be an example of where somebody could have used love to combat that hate, and supposedly that then the results would be some evolution.
But we got to remember, like, a lot of people probably have never experienced love in their lives.
Oh, that's deep.
Okay, so
that's sad.
You can't. So here's the thing. When it comes to love, a person had to be able to experience that in some shape or form in their life, leading up to even understand what this young man is talking about on that video. Because if we're going to combat hate with love, first you got to know what love is.
And know what that feels like.
And know what that feels like.
Child, I love it. And again, you're right. It's like if you come from love and if you've experienced love is addicting.
Then you get that.
Then you, right.
But if you don't come from love.
Then that resonates. That's right. Preach. I love that.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
and what I've learned is that I came from a home of so much love. I thought everybody came from that. So now that's why I had empathy for people, because that's not the norm.
Yeah.
A lot of people come from
sad.
hatred and not being valued. So
and neglect and anger and abuse.
Anger.
Yeah.
So until we get to the crux of that within that person, for them to understand love on a grand scale, they will never understand what that young man is talking about.
And those of you out there that are listening who may have had some interesting experiences in your youth, or this strikes a chord, feel free to reach out to me and Tysen. I'm serious, because again, it's all about us doing the work. I don't have to know you to be able to set some time aside to talk to you. You know, I've had some people in my life who I can think of right now who definitely need to be led to the water, right? But they don't want to. They want to live in their misery. They want to live in their anger. That's what they know. It's what's comfortable. But true living is when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and vulnerability.
Yep.
Man, I'm glad you're here. And I'm going to get you back. So we got much more to talk about. Much more to talk about.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. A lot of white friends of mine, I'm sure as well of yours, have been reaching out to us like, I don't know what to do, or I want to do something, or let me ask you this: a lot of people when the George Floyd thing broke, people were just calling to check on us. How did that make you feel? Did you resent that? Did you get the intent behind that? How did it make you feel?
I didn't resent it. I knew that they already had love for me. I think they were checking on me, but I think it was a little confusion on their end, like, what do I do? Really, honestly, most of my friends, you're already doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing more you need to
You're
do.
You're being my friend. You're loving me.
There's nothing more you need to do. You're already doing it. So I had a friend of mine.
I like that answer.
I had a friend of mine. We were trying to figure out a way to do something because of the police brutality and different things. And I was trying to figure out a way to attack that through an art piece or something that I could, let people know my thoughts. Mm-hmm. And she had came up with this premise that we would take this picture with her kneeling in front of me, things of that nature. I said, "Nah, we don't need to do that. You don't have to kneel in front of me. We are equal. You are my friend.
Yeah.
We don't have to put that type of message out there, because at the end of the day, you've always treated me with the utmost respect, and I've treated you with the utmost respect. So my friends do reach out and say, I'm sorry for what's going on. I appreciate that. But what they don't really understand on a higher level is you already doing what you're supposed to need to be doing for me.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
There's a lot to what you just said right there. And I like this because I guess that's how good conversation works, mm-hmm. right? Now you kicked open another door.
Yeah.
So you not wanting her to take that action for an image is because you're looking to create a different message, one that is not one that we've probably already heard that seems to not get the response that we want.
Yes.
What do you have to say to a lot of folks of color and of not that don't believe that change can be made, that are continuing to talk about the plight and what we've gone through as people of color and hoping that will get solutions? You see where I'm going with that?
I understand what you're saying.
What do you have to say to that?
I don't think we're going to, as African-American community, I don't think we're going to get changed by shaming other demographics. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to get changed by leaning on each other, respecting each other more, and the people that support us stay steadfast with us in the movement. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's all we really need. I don't think it should be a thing where we got to make people feel bad for something that most of them probably weren't around when these things were occurring.
Right.
All right. So,
and there's so much behind that, right? Because where do we, if whatever anger that we might have, where do we place that? And that's not fair for me to be mad at one of my white friends or their parents or grandparents.
Yeah. Well, I think we have a lot of healing to do, but I think a lot of that is inner work.
Love this.
I think a lot is inner work, and I also think it's a high level understanding of African-American history and culture that have contributed to this society. Mm-hmm. Because what that does is that adds value to you, and then our demographic people that's supporting our movement, now we have something to give them that they can hang their hat on, and then we just move it all forward. Understand that we all built America. Mm-hmm. We all contributed to this place. Everybody, if you were supposed to take one demographic out of here, it would change the whole dynamic of this whole country.
Totally.
So really, basically, we all in this thing together. I know that sounds cliche because of the coronavirus and stuff, but we are all in this together.
But I think the real message that you're conveying right now is to not place blame, to not point fingers, because that's not going to create a solution.
No.
And we've exhausted those points.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people I've talked to disagree.
Mm-hmm. I understand. That's fine, and guess what? I respect that, and it's always dialogue and disagreeing, as long as we can always come to a level like I respectfully agree to disagree with you.
Right. And you know what? I don't have enough of those conversations, because that's where I can learn.
Yeah.
One thing I've been trying not to do is get into conversations or debates on Facebook with people, because it goes nowhere. And I kept seeing this meme. A meme is words, GIF is a video, GIF, whatever. And it was if you put a color in front of Lives Matter, then you're racist. And I was sick of seeing that. So I placed it on this woman's Facebook page, and I said, listen, what you're saying is insensitive. And I went on, but I came from a place of love. Yeah. And then she hit me back with like Democrats and Black Lives Matter and terrorists. And I said, and my response was, you're obviously mad at Democrats, and you obviously got a lot of anger. All I'm letting you know is what this message reads differently to Black people. Yeah. But then this dude chimed in, right? And he and I was up to 4 a.m. rapping with this guy. And I learned from him. He learned from me. And at the end of the conversation, he's like, I hope you're a hugger, because when I meet you, you're getting a big old hug. And I was like, yo. But I was having that uncomfortable conversation with him. Yeah. And I'm glad I did.
That's good.
Look at me going on tangents.
So let me just piggyback off that. I don't think anybody in a society doesn't understand that all lives matter. I mean, I think, we get that all lives matter. I think we get that. But I think what people are not understanding with Black Lives Matter is that this is a separate issue because of the way blacks in this country have been disenfranchised and some of the brutality that's happened to them. So that's why it makes it just a little bit of a different tweak to the life matters situation. So I think when people look at Black Lives Matter, they think that, oh, they're just talking about only black. What about everybody else? No, that's just a special situation.
But so when you say that, I know that some white people that read Black Lives Matter understand it.
Yeah.
No one's saying that other lives don't matter.
Absolutely not.
So then let me ask you this. Those that don't get it, is it safe for people to just make the assumption that they're prejudiced? Is that the assumption?
Or just ignorant.
I like that.
Because you got to remember,
that's that gray area. And now, listen, I like that. I got to jump in again. I've had a lot of coffee. But listen, I like that because one of the things I want to do in conversation is not generalize. And we all do it because we're lazy thinkers sometimes. Thank you. That goes into that gray area.
Yes.
Which is another word would be ignorance.
Yes.
I'm so glad I asked you that.
Absolutely.
Because it's weird. And a lot of my cousin, Brandy, who's in the Midwest, she's white. She's like, I don't get it. And you could tell she resents all that. She doesn't like it.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you this. When you refer to our people, you refer to us as African American. Yeah. I refer to our people as black. Yeah. And a lot of my white friends, I soon correct them when they say African American. Yeah. Tell me why you say African American.
Well, I just use different terms because over time, people of color in this country, we've been called different things. We went from nigger to negro to colored, to black and to African American. What was the last? I don't want to call it label, but last thing that was assigned to us.
Right,
as
which was
people.
part of the PC wave, right?
So when I kind of sway between both of those because some blacks like African American and some understand. So I just want to give two different variations of the word.
Got it.
But it's changed so much over time. So yeah, black, they can use black. But to me, black is more of a color than a race. But then African American is actually would be the, if we're going to be in this society, would be the race. But actually, we're more importantly Americans. We're Americans. We just have to be, we just have a darker pigmentation. But just to be in this society, we have to be labeled as African American or black because of so many different changes of the word. So I know that most people identify with black or African American. So, and I identify with those every once in a while. So, yeah.
Have you traveled outside of the U.S.?
Yes, plenty of times.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring you back.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some of that stuff too. But I'm going to play a game with you real quick.
Okay.
Okay. It's going to be yay or nay.
All right.
I don't want you to think. I just want you to say yay or nay. Okay.
All right.
All right. Kanye West. You can't think. It's got to be quick.
Nay.
All right. Candace Owens.
Nay.
Wow. Farrakhan.
Nay. Because I can't think about it, right? Yeah.
Biden.
Nay.
Wow. No, for real. For real. Melania Trump.
Nay.
Cory Booker.
Nay.
So, okay. And, no, and I love this. I love this because I'm
going to give you an explanation why I have these days.
Well, and I think that you're, so how do you feel about politicians and politics in a whole? And that's a broad question.
I think politics has its place. I'm neither a Republican or a Democrat, to be honest.
I asked this because a lot of the things I was leaning towards were just a few were just political. Even Cory Booker, for instance. Yeah. And I think that like him being black, a man of color, or even Obama, I think that we are, because we're men of color, we are obligated to back and support everything that they say. Yeah. The way I see politics, it's always a lesser of two evils. Yeah. Okay. And I think that is that kind of how you see it as well?
Yeah, I think, I think when it comes to politics in this society, it's not, I never looked at politics as something to do something for black people. I think they have to do for all people. So I never really was big into politics. I do follow politics, and I do vote occasionally.
That's honest. Me too.
But I
think we learned in the last election that voting sometimes.
I just feel that politician is a government entity they can promise you things, but
that's just to get your vote.
So yeah. So
where's our wall? Not that I wanted that.
So all those people, those lists they're kind of they're polarizing in their own ways, right? And they have things that some people agree with, some people disagree with. I'm able to take in information from all sources, and like I said, I think the most important thing is to be able to come up with your own intelligent conclusions.
And do positive.
Yes. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
A lot of these names that they're not necessarily always sending out positive messages, if messages alone.
But they do have a cult following, and they have a platform, and they have a platform, and they have people that. And I've heard all of these people on that list speak. And some of the things I think, I could okay.
Yeah.
Since some things like, nah, I don't agree with that.
I saw a panel, T.I., Killer Mike, and Candace Owens was on this panel.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
I saw that.
I was like, okay. I was like, all right. And again,
I saw that.
It was a learning moment for me to not just jump to conclusions.
Yes.
We're gonna leave that at that.
Yeah.
What I would like for you to do right now as we wrap this up.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to add before we talk about some solutions that we can leave the listeners with?
No, I think this is actually a really, really great interview.
Good. You feel good about it?
Yeah, I feel really good. I think we covered a lot. I think we touched on some really great and sensitive topics.
Yeah. And again, with a lot of the guests, I'm going to have you back because I feel like there's so much more that we need to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Such as the importance of travel, such as, the future as far as us as black men, as far as the kids and future, what kind of hope do we have for them?
Yes.
We have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
So, all right, give it to me. Give us your homework. What are some solutions you can leave the listeners with?
Well, my number one solution is understanding value and knowledge of self, which is very important for any race of people to have.
Right.
I think once you add value to yourself, you'll look at the world differently, and you will have something to offer.
So how can give people some instruction? How can they do that?
Okay, so when you first of all, you have to eradicate selfishness, the all about me attitude. You have to balance out material possession versus what you need to survive.
Okay, so take that and then put it into even more action. Are you literally telling people to go in their closet and like take out clothes that they don't wear anymore?
You can do that, or you can just stop buying things you think that you need.
Okay.
Right.
Such as,
we all suffer from this. Such as maybe, a designer bag or some new sneakers, or, anything that's materialistic that it really serves you no purpose but to just stroke your ego. So if you were able to just pull that back some and then say, then say to yourself, okay, if I'm going to touch on what you said about cleaning out your closet. If you would clean out your closet and maybe donate that to, for a good cause.
Angel View or Goodwill.
Angel View or something like that. What you're doing is you're creating in your world and in the world outside of you, positive energy.
I love you. I do. And listen, I learned this from my therapist, right? Because I was, we all go through slumps. Therapy was something that worked for me. It still does on occasion.
Yeah.
But when I'm feeling down and I'm lost in my ego and I'm lost in woe is me, you're supposed to go do an act of kindness to somebody else.
Do some kind.
Yep, is what will help you.
So that goes back to servitude. We got to realize that our main purpose here is for servitude to each other.
Right.
So, okay, like, for instance, Trina told me, hey, Brian has a podcast. No problem. Right. Whatever that brother needs from me, he got it.
I love it. I
don't care if he was doing it out of your house or your garage.
Right.
I'm there. I don't care if I'm in Italy selling paintings for $1 billion. If you call, I'm there. That's servitude. And that's appreciation.
I never thought about this. I thought you meeting with me, I never looked at it as servitude, and it is.
It's servitude. Because you gave me an opportunity. We're friends. We're brothers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I have to make sure I uplift you, just like you uplift me.
Yeah.
I can't say, well, I don't know what Brian's doing, so I'm, blah, 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 blah. No. I'm obligated to my brother. That's servitude. And that creates good karma.
And spreads love.
Absolutely.
I love this.
Absolutely.
And again, because the goal, a big part of the goal here is to give people real-time solutions.
Absolutely.
Let me spell out an action for you that you're going to get benefit from. And that
yes.
was one. Continue if you have
so
some more.
Less about yourself and more about others.
Uh-huh.
That creates positive energy for you.
Hold on real quick.
Yeah.
We got George Robert Fuller on the line. This is my buddy from Chicago.
Oh, okay.
He's just chimed into the podcast. George, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Mr. Gallio?
Well, I'm doing all right, thank you. I'm joined with Tysen Knight. You've seen Tysen Knight on Desert Living. He's an artist, 44-year-old black artist here in the Coachella Valley, and we're talking about all kind of stuff. Let me ask you this real quick. I just asked him about some solutions. You're a man of color. Can you think of any solutions that we can give our listeners that they can literally apply beginning today that might be able to give them some insight on maybe some underlying racism or prejudice that they might have and ways to just better themselves?
I don't really know, Mr. Gallio. I really don't know. I would just say maintain an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called cornrows that people of color used to do back in the 70s. I think if everybody, and it's a process of having someone who actually does the cornrows, sitting the person on the floor, and that's a bonding period.
Yes.
So I think that if people learned how to braid their hair, we can share that camaraderie with each other and bond and have conversations with each other about true life. And I think that will begin to open doors.
Wow.
I agree.
Yeah,
That's
what a
beautiful.
cool example.
Come on and braid my hair. There's a song, Come on and braid my hair.
Yeah.
I think Robert Kelly.
That's
infamous
beautiful.
Robert Kelly
Yeah.
is known for this song. It would kind of give you insight as to what I'm speaking on.
All right. And I don't know how to braid hair, so you're going to have to teach me that. We're going to get you back on. We're going to do a Zoom call with you because you're out of Chicago. George, I'm going to get you on the line later. I appreciate you calling in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Gallio.
No problem. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
No problem. Wow. I like that analogy you used. That was pretty cool.
That was cool because, again, it's looking – Trina's face right now. But I love it because – everybody has an idea, right, as to what a solution might be, and that's dope.
That is dope. So how I interpret what he said,
dope,
but it's all up into different interpretations. What I interpret what he said was having a culture and experience and teaching that culture and letting other people experience that culture.
Right,
because braiding your hair,
a window appear into our life.
Exactly.
Fire.
So so that's what I got from what the brother was saying.
Fire.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to take the stage from you. That was just
I don't. I mean, this is it's a podcast.
Yeah. We get random callers.
Yeah, it's all good, man. The brother needed some. He had to get some off his mind, and
Fool's always got something to say. No, that's my homie. That guy's like family to me.
Yeah, that's cool. Man.
So, do you have any other solutions that you could leave us with? And if not, you can save some for the next time we chat.
I'll save some for the next time, but that's the one that's on my heart. I think, just servitude to others, and I think that can open up doors to other things as far as racism and things of that nature. Because once you get into servitude and helping others, I think that would help you understand yourself a little bit better and just understand the world around you a little bit better. So I think that's a jumping off point.
And you and I are telling people right now from firsthand experience that it does work.
It does work.
Period.
It does work.
And it works immediately. Because
what I realized is, even with the pandemic and me mentoring and helping people, it's all races of people that need help.
Yeah, totally. So nobody is exempt.
Now I'm definitely sensitive to black people and African American plight. I get it on a certain level, but as a whole community, it's all races of people that need help. I remember one time I was when the pandemic first happened. I had volunteered with this young lady. I can't think of her name right now, but she works with the Palm Springs Art Commission. She's going to kill me. I can't remember her name right now.
Oh, you're in trouble.
It escapes me because my mind is going 100 miles per hour. But she called me and said, hey, would you come down to the Jesse O. James Center and help me volunteer to give out food? Mm-hmm. And they had like this, because people weren't really dealing with each other, so they have like a drive-through where people drive up and then you'll just hand them bags of food and boxes and put it in their trunk for them, stuff like that. Uh-huh. And they had the actual military there helping as well. And what I noticed was that the cars that were pulling up, it was everybody, man. Latin, white, black, whatever. Everybody. So that made me understand well, I already understood that, but it just reinforced what I already understood was that.
But you had to see it.
I had to see it because sometimes we don't see things out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're plugged into the social media and TV, and then you follow one narrative, you get
a skewed view.
Yes. So seeing that all demographic people need help. We all need help, man. That gave me a certain level of empathy, and I understand that on a higher level, just from a human perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Our last caller, he lives in downtown Chicago. We had a conversation. We talk a lot about what's going on. And he was talking about how he just didn't really have hope for the future. And he thought that, that things just weren't good and we weren't hearing the voices or getting the support we needed. Mm-hmm. Then the next day, he had to ride his bike to go run an errand. And he ran into the protest. Mm-hmm. And he took a video and he started crying. And he called me. He's like, wow, maybe you are onto something, because he saw a lot of white folks out there fighting for our cause. So I appreciate you being here.
I always appreciate you, brother.
We're going to get you back.
Anytime.
All right. That wraps it up for us, everybody. As you know, find ways to do your part. You can use some of the examples that we learned today from Tysen Knight or George Robert Fuller. You can find Tysen on all social media platforms. And again, we're going to bring him back. So again, do your part. All love. We love you. And we'll see you or hear you soon.
I am absolutely confident that you continue to do your part.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Do Your Part.
I work at staying awake.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Stay connected with Brian Gallo through social media at Do Your Part Podcast or visit doyourpartpodcast.com.